got to turn your.
You got to turn the computer on.
Oh man. There we go. Hold on. I gotta stop it now.
You guys can't see. Can they see?
Oh, you can see. Yeah. So I was gone for a whole week. We left on Saturday morning. I think our flight was like at 7 in the morning, and we didn't get into New York. We had to go to Buffalo and then to New York. So our Rochester. Anybody ever been to Rochester? Rochester's like about less than an hour from Vermont. Like it's way up there, and it was cold the whole time. But so you'll notice up here. So my son's Cal State Fullerton hockey team. This is roller hockey. This is not ice. He does play ice hockey too, but his ice hockey team got knocked out of the playoffs right away. His roller hockey team got invited out of 16 teams in the whole country. They got invited to kind of like it's kind of like the NCAA basketball tournament. You have to get invited to go. There's some few automatic bids, but he wasn't on the automatic bid. They had to get invited. So the way it works is kind of like if you could look at the basketball tournament, like the second round or the third round, there's 16 teams left. And each team is in a region. So this is very similar. They have 16 teams that are in 4 pools. And in the pools, there's 4 teams in each pool. And what you have to do is you have to play everybody in your pool. And that tells you who you're going to have to play in the next round. The next round is elimination. You lose, you're gone. You're out. You're on your way back to California. So the best thing to do is to win your pool, because if you win your pool, you finish first, and you get to play like a number 4 team, kind of like the NCAA. Like number 1 plays like number 32 or something. So supposedly you have a couple of easy games. Well, the team got there the night before, but we had an early game on Wednesday, and they just weren't ready to play. So they played a number 2 team, and they lost 6-1. Which in hockey, if you don't know, that's a blowout. That's like they weren't even in the game, right? It's like they were asleep through the whole game. So they ended up winning their next 2 games, but one of them they won in overtime. So they ended up finishing 3rd in their pool. So that meant they had to play some really good teams in the next couple of rounds. And so what happened was they had to win, after the pool, they had to win 4 more games to win the championship. So they won their first 2. One was an overtime shootout. And then this game, you see CSUF is Fullerton, and there's a 0 there. And Kansas State, you guys ever heard of Kansas State University? Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry, this isn't Kansas State, this is Kenesha State, it's different. But anyway, so the whole game we're losing pretty much 1-0, and had a lot of shots, couldn't score. There's 3 minutes left in the game. So if they don't score, they're out of the game. They're out of the tournament. And this is right before the finals. If they win this game, they go to the finals. So I'm just going to play. It's only 3 minutes. So in roller hockey, if you're down by a goal and there's like 3 or 2 minutes left, what you do is you pull your goalie out of the net because you have to score or else you're out. So the other team can shoot on your net with no goalie in it. That's pretty easy to shoot with your goal. So it's very risky to do this. And usually they don't do it until there's like 2 minutes left. So if they don't score like in the next minute, in 35 seconds, they're probably going to pull their goalie and they're probably going to lose. So I just wanted to show you this really quickly. You'll see, I know you guys probably have never met my son, but you'll see him right here. He's going to come in over here on the right. My right, your left. What number? He's number 33, so he'll be rolling up here in a second. Oh, I'm sorry, he's already up there. Yeah, I can't hear the volume.
Where is he?
There's the volume.
Oh, there he is. There you go.
I can turn the volume.
Who's on?
Face off one by the Owls. Sweeney.
33.
Walk behind the net. Sweeney up the far side. Cameron knocks him off the biscuit and throws it to the blue line. Flores drops to the far side. Great Giles is going to get to it for Kennesaw State. Heavy pressure here from Cal State Fullerton. Giles down the wall. It's poked away from him. Nicarati protecting the puck at the half courts. Cal State Fullerton trying to dig this puck out. Eventually they do. Patterson had it poked away. Roddy trying to get to this puck. Patterson protects it beautifully.
Oh, we're in the black
On the far side of center. Patterson to the near side. 2:58 left in the third. Flores, long range shot. That one goes wide. It comes back in front. It's blocked by Sweeney. Puck towards the front of the net. It goes wide. Gardner. Up the far side, Maloney checked into the boards. Puck in the corner, Roddy.
Hey!
2-on-2 battle. Al's trying to get this puck free.
If they don't
Now
score in
it's
the
knocking behind
next
the
20
net.
seconds, they're probably going to lose.
Cameron gets to it. Scratch that. Suarez. Out foot shoot. They score!
Did it. Oh,
Maloney ties it with 2:31 left in the third.
Yeah, that's my son.
MVP. MVP.
Cal State Fullerton, yes.
Yes.
We're all tied up.
So they scored with like
Under 3 to go.
2 minutes and 30 seconds left.
Look at Maloney
You're gonna show here.
Go little Maloney.
Flores out
That's
front. Maloney just got open. He actually whipped on the shot. That's the reason he scored. If you would have got all that, Giles would have made the save. But it fluttered into the goal. A knuckle puck past Giles.
They called it. Okay, I'm gonna stop this.
Kennesaw State wins the face-off. They get it right.
So they had to go to overtime to win. So they won with like 9 minutes left in overtime. So it was pretty good. So now I want to show you one more thing because after that they had to play the team that beat them 6-1 in the first round. Made it all the way to the final also. So they had to play the same team again. And it was 3-2 going into the third, but then we scored 2 goals, so it actually wasn't close. It went like 5-2. But I want to just show you one more thing. And if I can get this out of here. I gotta put my glasses on. Alright. This is the last thing I want to show you here. Oh.
Going back on me.
Do you have any, okay. So right here I'm going to show you, there's one more video. Actually, I'll show you 2 more videos. And, you might not be able to hear this, I don't know. So they're announcing the winners. They gave them that's the trophy.
Number 61, Rick Gordon.
Can't really see it that good, I was kind of far away. And then this is the last one I wanted to show you. So after that they do the trophy. And this is them with the trophy. My son's standing right there, so he's gonna get it right now. Actually, asked me, I couldn't see through my phone, so I couldn't tell if he'd already done that. So last thing. No, that wasn't me. That was Warren. And this is them with the cup.
Yay.
That's my son right there. So it was pretty neat. And then after we had to fly out the next morning. So they had to pick somebody to take the cup home. So my son took it home, like all the way through the airport, and you can't even tell how big it is. It's like this big.
Wow.
So we had to walk through and try to carry it on, and then they said it was too big, wouldn't fit the overhead, so they had to check it, and then we had to go back and pick it up. So it was pretty. Everybody in the airport kept asking him, "What's that for? What's that for? What's that for?" He's walking around this big overhead trophy. So it was pretty neat. So, there's actually a reason that I showed you this. The reason that I showed you this was, no, not actually because they're winners. The reason I showed you this was because in my previous career, if I would have stayed in it, I probably never would have watched any of his games. He started playing roller hockey when he was 3. He played ice hockey when he was 6, and now he's in his 4th year at Cal State Fullerton. he's probably gonna play one more year because now they have these 50-year seniors. You guys hear about that? You don't graduate in 4 years anymore. So, but he doesn't mind because he's gonna play probably one more year of hockey, so that'd be good. So I do wanna. The reason I'm telling you that though is because this company is the only reason that I'm able to travel with my son, and I've been doing it since I went full time, which was like he was let's see. He must have been about 4 years old. He was just starting his first roller hockey league when I started, so that's how long it's been. So, been a really fun ride with doing that. So I do have something to go through today. How many of you were here? So I've been gone for a week. I wasn't here all last week, and the week before that though, I did a training. Does everybody know what the training was about?
Yes.
Actually, I heard it was recorded. Somebody said it was
4 to
recorded.
5.
And so. I know Christopher taught last Wednesday, and so what I talked to him about today was kind of going through the second part of that training. There's actually 6 parts to it. So we're only going to go through one of them, and what I want to do today is do some role playing too. So basically 2 weeks ago Wednesday was more about the mindset, psychology, kind of what we call higher law. And today's going to be a little bit more about the nuts and bolts. Like, what does it actually look like when you're at the client? What are some of the questions you ask? I love. She was talking about the questions. Every time she talked to somebody, she asked them a bunch of questions. Really, that's really neat that she does that. So I don't know if that comes naturally to you, but I would say this: if you're a naturally inquisitive person, if you like to find out about people, it works really well in this kind of a business. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to go through, I have a PowerPoint here. Sorry. And this, actually, I need to go back to the top. This is actually 2 classes, they're both on the same PowerPoint. And this is class. Class 1 and 2 are both on the same PowerPoint. We're gonna just go for the first part about this. So some of this is review from 2 weeks ago. Preparing for the appointment. So if you have an appointment and you're going out in the field, these are a couple things that I always ask the trainees to do. Actually, I do it myself too. Is review the eye opener. It says CD. I know it's not a CD. We just get it offline on milet.com. And the eye opener basically talks about the TRC and why we do the TRC and why we ask so many questions to the client, right? So if you do this the right way, when you present the TRC, it makes sense to the client as long as you present it the right way. So I'm going to go through that in a second. So confirm the appointment. Now, if you guys remember 2 weeks ago, so if I'm going out on an appointment, let's say I'm going out with Silton, and I'm training Silton, and we're going to be driving a long way, kind of like where Feeling went all the way up to north, right? Whose responsibility is it to confirm, to make sure the client's going to be there? Whose responsibility? Silton, okay. So my rule of thumb is, yes, you're right, he's responsible, but if I'm going to be driving more than an hour, I'll actually try to confirm it myself too, just to be safe. Because I have had family members, very close friends, basically forget about it or not show up, and they don't think it's a big deal because it's Silton. You know, well, Silton will forgive us if we had to run to the store or something, or if we got called away, and we forgot to call Silton and tell him. He's not going to stop being our friend, right? But well, maybe he will. But if I call him, it's kind of like when we confirm a guest for the BPM. If somebody else confirms him, then it sounds more official, right? It's not just my friend Silton coming over. Go ahead, Silton.
But didn't you say that the trainee should drive?
Yes, trainee should drive, right? And we talked about that a little bit too, because if the trainer drives and you show up to somebody's house with a strange car with a stranger in it, and now I'm bringing Silton with me, it looks like I'm using Silton.
Correct.
I'm taking Silton with me to go see somebody he knows. Whereas the opposite is if Silton takes me, now Silton's bringing a friend over. Right? Can you see the difference? It's a little subtle difference there. So what is the trainee's responsibility? And this is what you do. This is why they drive too, because while they're driving, if I'm the trainer, I can get ready for the appointment. I start asking Silton some questions about the clients, and then we also review what is Silton going to be doing? Well, he has to be able to introduce me. So how does he do that? Well, we role play it. you know, hey Silton, here's the best way to introduce me. I have him say it to me. I go, that sounded really good, Silton, but you know, let's add this little twist to it a little bit, and let me tell you when you're going to say it. So what you want to do is make sure you get to the kitchen table, and then you give them some kind of a signal. So what I do is I always have my my briefcase with me, and I just reach down in my briefcase and I say, do you mind if I take some notes? And I go down to my briefcase to pull out my notebook, and that's the signal. As soon as I reach down, Silton knows, okay, that's my cue. I have to introduce now. Okay, so and you can have whatever kind of signal you want. Why is that important? Well, if you're talking the whole time and you're trying to build rapport and you're asking questions, Silton has no idea what. Guess what? A lot of times they just forget because he doesn't want to interrupt me. Right? So if I tell him when he's going to do it, he's not interrupting me because he knows that's the time. Who brings the material? So you guys remember this from last week. Whose responsibility is to have the flip chart, the forms? Whose responsibility is that? Is it the trainer or the trainee?
Trainee.
Trainee, right?
But
But you always bring a backup. So I have everything in my briefcase just in case the trainee forgot something. Kitchen table. So we talked about this too. We talked about you sit next to your trainee, you sit next to your trainee, and you sit directly across from the husband and wife. And the reason for that is we want them to look at Silton and I basically kind of like as one person. So we're using Silton's credibility and my background and my knowledge and my experience in order to try to help this family. Okay? Really important. And then interruptions, we talked about this too 2 weeks ago. It's another thing we rehearse before we get there. I asked Silton how many kids they have. They have 5 kids, and they're all under the age of 5 or something, right? Or they got 6 dogs running around the house, right? So we don't want this to happen, but if there's an interruption, unfortunately, Silton's going to have to go take care of it because I have to help the client. Right? So we don't want that to happen, but if it does, it'd be very rude for me in their house to say, hey, can you let the dogs outside? Right? Or can you put the kids to bed? That would be very rude if I'm the first time in their house. But if Silton's been there a lot and he knows this, or especially if they're a relative, he might even be used to taking care of the kids. He might have a better chance of doing that. So that's kind of the psychology. So what is rapport? And we might have cut up this last week. I think we did. I think we did. Yes, but yes. Go ahead. Molly.
You know, when you're in that phase and the prospect starts talking about something that he knows the trainee also has interest, would it be advisable to go into that conversation for a while? Like somebody knows that you're interested in soccer and you say, hey, did you see the last game? This happened, that happened. You know?
I would say if you're the trainee, no.
No?
No. If you're the trainer, yes. Yeah, because the rapport, if you know them already, hopefully you already have rapport with them.
Okay.
Right? But what you're trying to do is have the trainer have some rapport with them also.
Now, how do you stop the client?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant as the trainee. No, if the client's talking. No, if the client's talking. No, you don't want to. You don't want to. Yeah, that's the point. So what is rapport? Who can tell me what rapport is? Anybody? Okay, let's just go with students. Yes. What? Yeah, find something in common. So part of what we're doing when we're driving over there is what do I have in common with them, right? Rapport is something that you have in common with the person. So you want to find out, are they married? Do they have kids? What, do they play any sports? Do their kids play any sports? Those are all good things to have rapport with, okay? This first part's going to be a little bit of a review, but okay. How and when do you build rapport? So when do you start building rapport? If you're going out in the field to see a client, when do you start? Before you get there. Yeah, you start before you get there. That's why I'm asking questions, right? And then you get to the front door, and if it's me and James, James is going to introduce me very briefly. He's just going to say, hey, I just want you guys to meet James. Jim's my trainer. And then James' number one job is to get us to the kitchen table, right? Because he knows the house. It'd be very rude for me to say, can we go sit at your kitchen table? If the kitchen table's messy, or if they go, hey, we didn't do the dishes yet, then James is going to take the dishes off the table if he has to, right? Because we need to sit down someplace where we can set up the way we're supposed to get set up. Okay. So I think I covered this this last week too. It takes 42 seconds for somebody to form an opinion of you the first time you meet them. So basically, you've got 42 seconds to find something in common. And if it's somebody, if for some reason while we were driving, or if we just didn't have time, then I've got to find something that I have in common with them. I have 42 seconds to do that. It's really important. Okay. Yes. Opening questions. Yes.
For the 42 seconds, what would you suggest would be a good way to find common?
I try to notice things in the house. You know, I don't know why I have this weird thing about floors. I've always wanted to change my house. We've been there 23 years, and I've never changed any other than painting the house. I've never done like the floors. And I always look down to see because I always like nice wood floors. They've always been. You too?
I tell you, floors are not all that easy. Okay, I'm in the process of it
Okay.
right now.
But
They'll be starting to put the new one in on Monday.
yeah, I just look for something. I look for something around the home. My wife calls me a looky-loo. You know what a looky-loo is?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like people that go look at new houses, like when they're shopping. They're not even shopping for a house, they just like to go look at them. That's kind of like me. And so whenever I'm in a new house, I just notice things. Like, you know, did you guys put that floor in yourself, right? How did you come up with these colors? Because I'm horrible at trying to find out colors, but I'm looking to do some of the stuff in my house. You know, so just little things like that. You see pictures on the wall, it's okay to ask them, hey, are those your kids? You know, how old are they? Just little things like that, because I have kids, right? Sports, you know, families always put their sporting pictures all over the wall. Those are the first, that and the weddings and stuff are the first things that go up usually, right? Medals, trophies. What was that trophy for? You know, things like that. Good question. Okay, so opening. So now we're at the kitchen table, and there's a couple things that you've got to get set right away on these are what I call opening questions. Okay, so one of the things I want to find out is what have they heard? What do they know? What do they know about WFG? What do they know about Transamerica? Even though we may have rehearsed, and you know, maybe James did tell me a lot about them, and maybe James says, you know, I already did kind of a, you know, an ASAP with them. They already know everything about the company. You know, I'm not, you know, and he's telling me all this stuff that they know about it, and then I ask them, and they go, oh, we don't know anything about it, you know? So I've had that happen before. Or they forgot. You know, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, and they forgot everything that they saw. Maybe they came down to the BPM 2 weeks ago, and by the time we get to their house, they've already forgot everything, right? So you want to find that out. What have they heard? You definitely want to know that. Have you heard anything about the company? What do you know about the company? Time frame. This is really important. Before you get there, if it's a married couple, even if it's not a married couple, they already have some idea in their head of how long they're going to keep you in their house. There might be a show coming on, there might be a sporting event, they've already budgeted time. Now the only thing is they haven't told you how much time you have until you ask. So what if you don't ask? Now what if it's an hour into it and they go, oh, I'm sorry, you know, I forgot to tell you, we got to go pick up our kids and we got to leave right now. So you just went an hour and didn't get in probably to what you wanted to, or that maybe a half hour. I have had clients that have told me they have 15 minutes. But the thing is, if you know that ahead of time, you can still get a lot of stuff done in 15 minutes, right? So then when they tell you 15 minutes, your goal is to get an hour by giving them enough value in that 15 minutes where they go, you know, I really don't have to leave right now. Let me ask you a couple more questions before you leave, right? So, time frame. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. You want to start planting seeds for referrals. We're going to go through this in a second, the 4 pre-frames. This is always a great question to ask people. You know, when Deanne brought me down here, when she set up the appointment with you, I just wanted to know if she told you how much it was going to cost. And they're looking at Deanne like, Diana, you can't believe you brought somebody down here that's going to charge us something, right? So it's just kind of a way to get them to realize that we're not there to sell them anything, and it's not going to cost them anything for us to be there. Believe it or not, that's another thing that they discussed before you got there. We're not going to spend any money, and if he asks us to buy anything, we're going to throw them out. That's probably what they talked about. Have you ever had a financial plan done? And if they did, actually that's a good thing. If they did, how much did that cost you? would you recommend that to others? Would you recommend other people to get a financial plan done? So there's two stories on here. One's called The Wealthiest Person in the U.S. We're actually gonna go through these two here in a second. And the other question is, what would it be worth to you? What would a financial plan, if we could put a financial plan together that allowed you to do all the things that you said that you want to do, what would that be worth to you? And then I say what we charge, which is, we don't charge anything. So, we're gonna role play this right now. I got some handouts, we're gonna have to go really fast. And the handouts are actually everything that I'm gonna go through today. So, let me just move them up. I hope I put the right one on the top. The one on the top is supposed to be. No, I didn't. Somebody's gonna get my copy of this. Thank you.
What is your copy?
All the copies are crooked. When I went into the copier, they all came out crooked. So there's one that's really straight, but that's mine. That's okay. I already know what it is. Yeah, I don't have to look at it.
You guys should.
So what we're gonna do is the first page is basically all of these overheads, kind of all written out.
Copies?
Oh yeah, right.
Extra?
Right. So turn the first page, and we're gonna go through the 4 preprints. And this is gonna be the role play. So I want you to grab a partner, and the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna let me just read it out loud. Who does not have a partner? Raise your hand if you don't have a partner. James, you're with Steve. Or you're not together. So James, you're gonna be with Steve. Fanning, you don't have a partner.
I'll do it for Lean. I wanna learn from the chance.
Errol? We need a partner up here. Errol, no, you're gonna be with Chris.
Oh.
Can you come up and role play with him? Okay. So right now I'm just gonna read it so you guys can kind of see how it goes. Okay. John and Mary, there's 4 things our company hopes to accomplish every time we sit down with a family. While I cannot assume that any of these will be important to you, I think you will agree they probably are important to someone you know and care about. The first thing that we want to accomplish is we want to develop what's called a written financial plan to help achieve any financial goals. We believe that everyone is better off having a written plan than not having one. Wouldn't you agree? Now right there you stop, because you've got to make sure that they answer the question. Number 2, secondly, we believe that every family should thoroughly understand any financial products they already own, such as debt, instruments, insurance, and saving vehicles. Did the companies you bought products from in the past take the time to make sure you understood how all your products work and how they work together? That's usually a no. Thirdly, we shop the industry for our clients to see if we can lower their costs, increase their rate of return, protect against loss, and possibly decrease or eliminate taxes. Do you feel any of the companies you have done business in the past did all of those things for you, all of that for you? Usually a no. And number 4, finally, after reviewing the current financial situation, and if it's appropriate, we recommend any new strategies that could help them reach their short, mid, and long-term goals. Isn't that something everyone could benefit from, including you? That's another question. Did you notice on all 4 of those there's a question at the end? Okay. So, yes, Mohammed.
I know it's rare, but once in a while we run into a situation where they have a financial plan and they say, oh yeah, I got one, and they bust one out. Do you look at it and
I've done that. Yeah.
start reviewing it?
Yeah. Remember when I said at the beginning, I asked them that ahead of time. So before I start going through the 4 prelims, I already know if they have a plan, right?
Then
And
if
so-
they said yes, would you say show it to me, or
No, I wouldn't say
just
sure.
throw that away? I'll give you a new one.
No, my first question would probably be, how satisfied are you with it?
Oh, I see.
Is it reaching all your goals? And the second one, you guys gotta get really good at asking this is, when's the last time you've met with your advisors?
Oh.
You'd be shocked.
Yeah, that's-
The number 1
that's
answer is never.
Yeah, that's a good question. Once they say they try, you know. So,
Yeah. And so what you're trying to find out is, are they satisfied with it?
Right.
Right? And even if they say they are, I have a way of telling them that, it's a really stupid story. And the story is, let's say that you've developed a really bad headache tonight, and you felt like you had to go to the emergency room, and you walk into the emergency room and you see this young doctor that looks like he's still in high school. He doesn't do any tests on you, he just takes a look at you, and he he says, you know what, I think that you probably need brain surgery.
Well, you can say that again.
So the question is, would you let him perform brain surgery on you, or would you get a second opinion? Probably get a second. You probably
You
get a
get
second.
5 opinions.
So all we're trying to do, if they do have a financial plan, is give them a second opinion. Okay. And then the last one, which Christopher actually calls this the 5th pre-frame. But I always like to remember 4 pre-frames and 5 closings. So we'll get to the closing in the next class. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the agenda? Okay. Why is that important?
You want to make them part of the plan. You want them to be a part of the plan, not
That's
just
true.
you bringing in your own.
That's true. What else?
You they answer with their hot button, which we can.
They very much might. There's one more reason. Can we think of one reason? Remember when I said that before you got there they were talking to each other?
Oh, yeah, how much is this gonna cost?
Yeah. Well, they probably were also talking about something that they wanted to talk about. And if you never mention it, they're going to be thinking about it the whole time. They're going to be going, when is he going to get to that? When is he going to get to that? When is he going to get to that? But if they say, well, yeah, we wanted to talk about our life insurance or something. Isn't that good to know before you get started? Very good. Okay? So we're going to practice this just for a couple minutes. Grab your partner. Don't grab your partner, just look at your partner. I'm going to give you, this should not take more than 3 or 4 minutes, really. It shouldn't. So go ahead, go.
Okay.
Right now, it comes with time.
Okay, if you're done, switch. If you're done, switch. Let the other person go.
We do this for a class, I will bring this we share this information with anyone else that you may care about. I can use this
How
Okay, raise your hand if you're done. Both people in already. Well, a lot of you are done. Okay, you're done. Okay, go faster, go faster. Okay, I think half of you are done. Let's wrap it up. Whoa. Okay, bonus question. How many of you know why the W, the U, the S, and the R are underlined? Who knows why? Carol?
That's to remind you of the four pre-frames, of the written understanding, the shopping of the industry, and recommendations.
Yeah, I used to write those letters out on the financial needs analysis form, so I wouldn't forget any of them. And I would just write down W for written plan, U for understand, S for shop the industry, and R for recommend. And that's how I remembered it. Because I don't want to sit there and read this thing in front of the client every single time. Plus, I found out most of my clients were not named John and Mary. So it felt really weird to call them John and Mary when I knew that wasn't their names. Okay. So the second one, which it says right there, is the wealthiest person in the U.S. Now turn the page. So here's the question that you asked. The question is, who do you think is the wealthiest person in the United States? So the purpose of this story is to explain how most financial companies cater to the wealthy and to show how we are different because we help everyone. So you ask them a question, who do you think is the wealthiest person in the U.S.? So they might say somebody like Bill Gates, or they might say Oprah Winfrey, or something like that. It doesn't matter who they say. So what you're doing is you're involving them in this story. They already think that they know who the wealthiest person is. Don't argue with them. Don't say, I think Bill Gates has more money than Oprah. I don't know. Don't say that. Whatever they say. Okay, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question then. Let's say Bill Gates decides to hold a meeting about his finances tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. So it's almost 9 o'clock. Tomorrow morning at 6 in the morning. And he leaves messages with his investment advisor, his tax consultant, his insurance agent, his mortgage consultant, and his retirement planner. How many of those people do you think are going to show up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.? How many?
All of them.
If it's Bill Gates?
Yeah.
Probably all of them. Yeah. If it was me? No. Okay. So let me ask you another question. So now you're still involving him. So if you held the same meeting tomorrow morning, how many of the people that handle your money would show up? That's the answer now. Okay? So do you think that the people that handle Bill Gates' money talk to each other about how all their products work together to help Bill Gates? Do you think they talk to each other about making sure that we're doing the right thing for Bill Gates?
Oh, really?
Yes, they probably are. Do you think that people who handle your money talk to each other about what's best for your family? No, that's a definite no. So here's a good question. Do you believe that everyone should have access to the information that the wealthy people have access to? Do you believe that? So why don't companies give that kind of service and information to everyone? Why does just the wealthy people get that? Let them answer that question. What would you guys say?
Because they have the money.
For them, yeah. Right? If Bill Gates calls a meeting, they're making a lot of money off of Bill Gates, right? Yeah. So we can do this because we don't represent. Now the reason that we can do it is because we don't have to check the 6 or 7 different people. The reason that we can do it is because we don't just represent one product or one industry, and we can look how all of these things work together and how they can help you achieve your financial success. Isn't that something you'd like to learn more about? Who do you know and care about that would like to hear more about this? So this doesn't have to be word for word. I just want you guys to get an idea of what the story is. So the key things are, who's the wealthiest person in the United States? Who do you think? Right? And then the second one is, if they called a meeting tomorrow morning, would all their people show up? Right? And the third thing is, if you called that meeting, all the people that handle your financial products, your bank guy, your HR person at work, for sure wouldn't show up tomorrow. I'm just kidding. You know, maybe they have an insurance agent, maybe they've never seen before.
You know, there are a lot of naive people. Somebody might say, oh yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah, well, those are the ones that you don't want to be your clients. I'm just kidding. was having a discussion with one of my agents today about a guy that's giving him a really hard time. And I stopped at him and I go, you know, you get to decide who your clients are. I go, I know you don't wanna not help somebody, but you can't help somebody if they don't thank.
Right.
So sometimes you have to take it away a little bit. And say, you know, I don't know if this is gonna work out, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to help you. Guess what they'll do? You gotta be kidding, wait, what do I have to do?
Well, you took it away.
Okay, so you guys understand the story?
When do you say this? When do you do this?
Right here.
Yeah, okay, so go back. What I'm doing right now is I'm letting them know what we're gonna be doing for them. So this is a very good way for them to understand why we're different. So when Mohammed was talking about the guy that has a financial advisor, I guarantee you that financial advisor probably only gives them investment advice. Not insurance advice, not how to get out of debt, not how to save money, not how to retire. They're helping them invest money. So even with that guy that has a financial advisor, I'm still showing them the difference. I'm still showing them the difference of what we do. Okay, so that's why you're doing it. You're doing it to show them the difference.
But when? Kind
Right
of.
at the beginning.
Okay.
Right at the beginning. Right when you're sitting down at the table. It's a great.
After the 4 prefix.
Yes, after the 4 prefix. That's why I did the 4 prefix first. Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna do this. This should not take more than a couple minutes. You get your guy. Oh, is that Isabel's case? You might need a key. Okay. All right, let's go. Go. Take you about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Who's your partner too? She lost her partner.
Sorry, I had to.
You're only out about 5 minutes. You're gonna do this in 2 minutes.
He's gonna read this. Yeah, just go ahead. Because he's who he is, he's a rich man. Yeah, very how did this meet?
Done? Raise your hand if you're done. Let's switch it up. Okay, I'm gonna go fast now because I want to get through these last two handouts. So most of you have seen a TRC before. That's the next handout. Okay. I want to give you just some real quick tips on how to get this thing done quickly and how to make sure they understand why you're asking them these questions. Because if they don't know why you're asking them questions, they're going to be hesitant. They're going to not want to answer them. Okay. So you have to explain. You have to explain the first 3 words up there. Trust, respect, customers. Okay? So what I say, and sometimes they can see the paperwork, it's sitting right there on the paperwork, and I say, you know, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The reason that I'm asking you these questions is I want to be able to find out some things about you so that I can build your trust. I want you to find out some things about me. At the end, I'm going to tell them my story. So they're going to hear me, and I'm going to ask them some questions. So the purpose of this is so they build trust. Now, do you think they want to have trust with you before they answer any other questions? They want to, right? Yes. Second one is respect. Right up next to respect, I want you to write time somewhere. Somewhere right next to there. Yeah. Also, I want to respect your time. So remember, they've already decided how long you're going to be there. So now you got to ask them, I want to respect your time. How much time did James say it was going to take when he set up your appointment? I don't care what the answer is. You say great. Great. And if they say, well, we've got about an hour, I say great. We only have about 30 minutes of material, but we'll stay over if you have more questions. If they say 30 minutes, I say great. We'll be out of here, we'll be done in 30 minutes, but if you have questions, we'll stay a little bit over if you guys have any questions. Okay? I never try to stay more than an hour. The reason that I never try to stay more than an hour is you won't be able to hold their attention for an hour. And if you answer all of their questions the first time you meet them, there's no reason for them to ask you to come back.
Hey Jim, is it advisable to get socializing with them? Like if they're having coffee and they offer you one?
I
Just out
usually,
of courtecy and
yeah,
you say,
I try not to have a full, like, 3-course dinner. But yeah, if they offer me coffee or water, or, yeah. I even sometimes ask them for water if I need it. I mean, people want to be hospitable if you're there.
Right.
Okay, we're almost done. The C is actually a benefit for them. The C is, by asking you these questions, by finding out some more about you, I can customize what we're going to talk about so that it makes sense to you and we value your time, right? So we're only going to talk about what's important to you. That's why we're asking all these questions. Now they want to answer, right? Okay? So I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we're almost out of time. I want to get to the last one. Okay, let me stop here real quick. Okay. Who knows what is the #1 job of a field trader? Who knows? Selling the dream, right?
Yes, sir.
But who? Selling it to who?
Trainee.
I would say to 2 people. One is to the trainee,
The
the other one is to the client. Because if you're too polished, if you're too slick, if you sound like a salesman, if you sound like you know everything, they're never going to think they can do this. It's okay to ask a question even if you already know the answer. Right? It's okay not to know everything. That's going to help them decide. If they know that you're successful because James has told them how successful I am, and they look at me and go, this guy's not that good. I'm sure I could do a better job than him. Now they're going to want to do it. Does that make sense? You don't want to be too good. If I can do it, you can do it. And okay, so I already did this. I already did the. I spent some time. Okay. You don't want to rush to the most important part is this part about their goals and dreams. Don't try to rush through that. Try to get them to answer as many things as they can. You know, if they get to 3 or 4 things that they want to do and they're struggling, this is what I say. You know what? I got room for 2 more. And you'd be surprised if I be able to think of 2 more. Crazy. Tell your story. That's on the bottom here. Make sure you know how to tell your story. And the most important thing is not what you did in the past. The most important thing is what did the company do for you? Now that's really easy for me because I never would have saw my kids play sports if I had not have gotten out of my job. That's a really important one, right? Yours might be I was struggling with debt. I had no retirement plan. I had no insurance. Whatever the company's done for you, make that part of your story because that's what you want them to know. That's the most important part. And then when to handle a referral sheet. So right at the bottom it says, write down anyone you would like to introduce us to. Right? So that's right when I hand them out a referral sheet, right when I'm done with that page. I hand it to them right away. And I always say this, I'm not going to ask you for any names or phone numbers tonight. I want you to see what we do. And if you believe it's something that somebody can benefit from, then give me the names. I'm not going to ask you for any names. And what they're worried about is you're going to take their names and go start calling them. Right? So I always say that. Now, sometimes they'll say, when I'm done, you got to call this person right away, and I'll still do it if they say that. They go, oh, you got to call my brother tomorrow, right? They'll still do that, but I don't ask them for the names that night. I wait till they see what we can do. Okay. Last one. Go ahead.
Jim?
Yes.
Maybe the trainee would already find out. I was thinking, what if they don't have any money to invest, do you try to convert them into a referral or?
Yeah, that's the second part of this class, which I'm not gonna go through today, and that's
Okay.
how to get a money commitment.
Okay.
So even, let me ask you a question, if they say they have no money, right, and they make money, and they spend money, it's not that they don't have money, it's that they're spending money.
Right, yeah, right.
So the question is, if I could find any money in your budget, what you're already spending, would you be willing to put that money towards your retirement or your college?
I see.
Okay? So that's not this class, that's the next class. That's a very good question. That means you have to be here next Wednesday. Silton. No question? Okay. So, we're basically done. The last page there is something called captive versus non-captive. This is actually part of the Crusade class, but I do say it because this is another way to tell them why we're different, okay? Have you ever heard of a captive agent, right? Now, most of them haven't. And what I try to explain to them, a captive agent is somebody that can only sell one company's product. So if you wanted to buy car insurance, and the closest place to your house was State Farm, Allstate, State Farm, you go to Allstate, and you need car insurance. What kind of car insurance are you going to get from Allstate? Allstate, right? What if there was another company that could sell you insurance for less, or a better policy, right? Would that Allstate agent be able to sell it to you? Would he? No. Matter of fact, what would happen to him if he did? Probably. He'd get fired, right? Right. So what if you represented a company that had 125 insurance companies, and you could sell the best one to the client? Right? That's what's non-captive. Our company, you have to be able to say this, and it's true, our company is non-captive. There's a difference. There's a difference. This is something you guys might not know. There are people that work for the companies. Dan, you have to go. There are people that work for the companies that we represent, and they're captive. Christine Ripnick, who's a very good trader for Prudential, cannot sell Transamerican annuities, can she? Right? Will Tate, who represents Transamerica Life Insurance, cannot sell Prudential or Pacific Life or anybody else. He's captive. He would get in trouble if he recommended somebody else. Right? So even the companies we represent have agents that are captive. You guys know that? We're able to represent as many people, as many companies as we're able to. Right? Okay, so that was it. Take this story home with you too and practice it at home. Oh, I'm sorry, there's homework. There's homework. You guys have homework? So you guys all have homework? Yes. Write this down. Oh, you know what? I skipped a couple slides. Oh yeah, it's on the very bottom. It's on the very bottom. Go back to the first page. It says homework. Your homework for the next week is to complete one TRC with a non-coded person. So if you got somebody in your family that'll work, your dog doesn't count because your dog can't answer the question. I don't want to see bark, 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 bark. Okay. It has to be one person that's not coded. And you have to fill out that complete form. Okay? That's your homework. Second one is you have to listen to the eye opener from edmylife.com. You have to listen to that 5 times between now and next Wednesday. That's basically one a day. Okay? And the last one is practice the stories. There's only 3 stories on here. It should be pretty easy. Okay? You've already practiced it once, right? So, any last minute questions? I'm pretty much done.
Great job.
Thank you.
Good job.
I skipped these last 2 slides, but that's okay. I went to the homework, so we're done. Thank you all for coming down. Thank you. Anybody want to see the video again? I'm just kidding. I'm just
Pleasure. Now you know.
Well, we'll tell you what, nice to meet you. You were asking.